Nerd Soul.
Lay ill kid at OneYoungsta holding it down, bringing that street geek and nerd soul. What is up, my people? Star Wars, boy. I said Star Wars. I said Star Wars. Anyway, we're not by ourselves. All right. We had to get serious because we are joined by a gentleman of high esteem. I give to you, Jay Sherer. What's up?
I'm back. I'm back to talk Star Wars, and I do not have as cool of an intro as you or Solar, but I'm here anyways.
All right. So I'm gonna go in and start the episode off like this with the same question. Did you like this episode?
I love this episode, man. This episode, like last week I was like pretty down on that episode. I did not like that episode. You didn't like that episode either.
Nope.
This episode recovered so much for so many reasons. I thought this was phenomenal.
Yes. And with that, I would like to add in a thank you to Mr. Ramsey, Mr. Peter Ramsey. Thank you, sir. Thank you for doing what should have been done. We thank you for bringing in high drama, high stakes, bringing in surprises, and some decent action. I thank you, sir. So I want to start this off with giving a shout out to someone who I did not expect to give a shout out to in this episode, which is Huyang. You know what I'm saying? Huyang, look, I thought you was just a robot. All right, just a regular old robot just out there, droiding in those streets, doing your little robotic calculations, checking out hyperdrives and stuff, and maybe fixing something a little, maybe a little training. But you held your ground against a HK droid, sir. You are the MVP right now. You are the MVP. I give it to you because if it wasn't for you, man, the team would have been lost. I thank you, Huyang.
He went straight up Jedi protocol on that thing, man. He just went to town. That was crazy.
And he pulled out the extra arms too. So I was like, oh snap. Yo, it was nice to see that because I was worried that, he would have just been kind of like dismantled and that would have been it.
Yeah.
But he handled himself extremely well. Extremely well. So I was happy to see that. Super happy to see that.
Yeah,
and even kind of sounded the alarm for him by shutting the lights off.
Yeah, that's right. He had the wherewithal to be like, what is going to make Ahsoka realize that something bad is going on, and that was his method. Good for him.
Yeah, because Sabine was like, the droid messing up again. She's like, no, he wouldn't do that.
Yeah, Sabine turned into Mandalorian for a minute there. She was a little anti-droid for a second.
Yeah, a little hateration from Sabine, but
a little droidist.
Yeah, a little droidist. But speaking of Sabine, I will give her a little props, a little leeway. She did come through in the first action sequence that we get, because we sort of get 3 action sequences. Mm-hmm. Sort of. It's kind of 2, but sort of 3. But in our first one, when they kind of attack the ship, Sabine, she gets into action. She's shooting. She's hitting her mark. She's not missing and stuff like that. She's doing action rolls. And I dug it. I really like that action scene a lot. The only thing I didn't like about that action scene is, and it might be me, but did it seem kind of slow to you?
Yeah, it was a little slow. Like it's almost as if so you gave a shout out to Peter Ramsey. I'm gonna double down on that shout out because this dude directed the hell out of this episode, and one of the things that he was doing really well was pacing it. So there was a lot of rising action in all the fights, and I will agree with you that the first fight it's almost as if the editing was a little bit disjointed, which made it feel a little bit slower than the other fights in terms of how they were handling themselves. There were some cool moves and stuff, like the move where Sabine uses her grappling hook to pull the guard in, and then Ahsoka slices him while he's going past her. Like that was awesome.
That was cool. Yeah.
But you're right. There was some moments where it felt a little bit slower. There's also I know we get the line from Morgan that's like, our basic level goons are not going to delay them very long, right? So you got to
Yeah.
send out. So Baylan then sends out his apprentices. So I know that like we don't expect those guys to defeat Sabine or Ahsoka, but it is kind of interesting to see the power dynamics. That's one thing that's a little bit confusing because I would have expected them to take those guys out even faster than they did, almost.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit. I realize you got to create a show where there's like drama and it's got to be interesting. So I'm not like holding that against them, but I think you're right. Like that wasn't the fastest paced action sequence we got.
Yeah, because I was wondering if it was slow because, like, acting wise or choreography wise, they didn't know how to have it down, or if it was slow because we were supposed to be getting the idea that they haven't really fought together in a long time. So I didn't know exactly how to take that one.
Right. Yeah, you could be right. That could be what it was. It was kind of like, we haven't done this together in a long time, so we're not sure how to do this well.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, like, how to count on where you'll be or something like that.
Yeah.
But I do want to give a shout out to Sabine for her activity with Shin Hati.
Yeah.
She did not look. They came up and Shin Hati was like, she was like going somewhere, like she all that. Then going somewhere. Like, it's always the apprentice that be thinking they sweet. But Sabine did not back down. She did not have any fear. She went on and took out her lightsaber and she went to work as Ahsoka fought Marrok. So that was cool to see her find. We see like, all right, now this is round 2. This is your second, your second bout. So to see her step up, not be scared, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but last week I said I want to see Sabine fight as a Mandalorian, not just like fight as a Jedi where she's not as skilled as a Jedi. And this episode gave us that because she was badass when she had those guns. I mean, that was so cool. So we finally got to see her go full Mandalorian and fight like a Mandalorian would fight. Because you gotta think, like, when she pulls out the saber, that's pure skill. She's not using the Force really much at all. And so for somebody like Shin, for her to be able to defend herself against somebody like Shin without being able to use the Force as much as Shin is able to use the Force, that's remarkable skills for a Mandalorian. So that part was pretty cool to see.
Especially when she was on her own. Because once Ahsoka took out Marrok, which I'll talk about in a second, she was like, go ahead. So to have that, that confidence to say, no, you go, do what you got to do, I'll handle this. That shows a definite jump in her confidence and also her training that I guess probably went off screen, but it definitely shows a difference in her position as far as confidence and her look at Shin Hati as a villain. Like, she's not afraid of her anymore. Not only is she sure in herself, but she's like, I'm not scared of you at all.
Yeah totally.
And that little the wrist blasters or whatever, nice move. Nice. I mean, I mean, of course I know writing wise we can't kill Shin Hati yet, but that was a nice move. That, because I was like, oh, Shin Hati got caught out there. She could have killed her, but of course, she has to stay around for a while. So, that's understandable. But with Marrok, are you surprised about how he died?
Not. So I don't know that. Because so here's the thing. I'm not sure that he's out of the picture because. Okay, so it's not like we just saw Ben Kenobi in A New Hope where he just falls and like becomes one with the Force. It's not like we see him fade off after getting stabbed like we've seen from some other folks. It's not like we saw him get burned on a pyre. Like, whatever that essence was of Marrok's being, it seemed to be able to travel in the physical plane to a certain degree, which makes me wonder if it is some sort of Force entity or perhaps even a Force ghost who's possessing somebody, who's like possessing the body of some other people. And so I kind of feel like we might see the Marrok entity again in some other context.
All right, cool. Because I was wondering the same thing. I was like, is Marrok like a reanimated body of some sort?
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, so we saw kind of what looked to be some Night Sister magic, and I was like, I wonder if this is some kind of just random reanimated, or like you said, like possessed, corpse or another person that's just possessed and using that body with their skills, and then they're just kind of disposable,
Yeah.
similar to what I guess the Emperor wanted to do with dag, I can't think of her name, Miss Skywalker's body.
Right.
I know
Right.
people with Ray.
Yeah.
I know Skywalker. I know people were mad about that. Look, guys, just let it slide. She ain't got no parents. Well, no, actually, no, she does have parents.
She
She
does.
she is a Palpatine, but
That's
I
right.
know Palpatine is not a great last name to have. Not right now. People have short memories, but not that short. You know what I mean? I mean, anything is better than Palpatine.
Yeah, Palpatine's
Like,
you're going downhill at Palpatine.
yeah. So, like, maybe it is something like that where it's a Force Ghost entity, which we haven't seen from the Sith side before, which would be a cool addition and a cool villain. A
Mm.
villain where you can't really get rid of him. Like, okay, go with me for a second.
Mm.
Imagine a villain in the realm of the movie Fallen with Denzel and John Goodman.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That could be an interesting villain. That could be a really cool villain.
That'd be crazy.
But I don't know if, they'd be able to handle that, or if Star Wars fans would be able to kind of like accept that either. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but
These
that
Star
could
Wars
be
fans
cool.
out here, they're pretty particular.
Yeah, they don't want anything to change. They kind of want their original trilogy given back to them. So I won't try to add anything for them. But I think that is kind of cool if it is some kind of Force Ghost possession or something like that, from the Sith side, because we don't really know what that could look like at this moment. So I think that could be cool.
I agree. That'd be awesome.
But I have a question for you about Hera. Hera is would you consider her, I guess, I don't know if you say in trouble. Would you say that she's in trouble now? Because the guy came, he was like, hey, you're supposed to be at this meeting. She's like, look, I'm going where I want to go.
Mm.
And I'm a general, so I do what I want. Like, is she like in trouble now, or is it like whatever? Because she took a whole squad with her. It's not, she didn't take a platoon, but she did take a little squad with her. So what, 5 ships, something like that, like five,
Yeah,
4 or 5 ships.
her
So
ship
those
plus
are
four,
those
yeah.
are people that could be used somewhere else. So I wonder how much trouble she could or couldn't get in. But also, I like the fact that she didn't wait forever to help her friends.
Yes.
Like she didn't just sit on her hand and say, well, okay, I'm out for the rest of the season. Goodbye, guys. Well, too bad. She was like, hey, I gave them a chance to let me go help. They're not doing anything, so I'm going on my own. And so I do like that.
I don't think she'll be in trouble, and here's why I don't think she'll be in trouble. Because whenever somebody does that in Star Wars, like it's the right choice. Like has anybody ever defied order? Okay, so maybe the only person that defied orders that it wasn't the right choice, you could argue, was Poe Dameron, right? Because there's that whole deal.
Yeah.
But like generally speaking in Star Wars, the person who's like, I'm not doing what you say I should do. Like they
It always
generally,
works
if it's Jyn Erso or if it's Andor, Cassian Andor, like usually the people that go against the grain are the people who see what's coming. And so I think Hera just sees what's coming. Like it's going to be proven that Thrawn is coming back. We all know that. We've seen we've seen the
trailer, so we know.
we've seen the trailer. Like we know what's happening. And so she's going to be right. And so people, if they're going to get on her case, she's going to be like, who was right here? And wouldn't it have been better to prevent Thrawn from coming back in the first place?
Yeah.
So I don't think she's going to get in trouble personally. She might, they might try to get her in trouble, but she's going to have a pretty good argument on her hands about why she did what she did.
Yeah, I feel you on that one because, the amount of experience that she has with the Empire wasn't even like regarded in that meeting. They were just like, okay, all right, well, glad, thank you for telling us and goodbye. It's like, like I know what I'm talking about. But when she shows up and that they finally see that huge, like, hyperdrive loop or whatever, I'm glad that they didn't seem scared at all, because I would have been like, whoa, hold up, what is this? Because like even as it's kind of like coming up from the planet, it's like that thing is huge. Because we're used to seeing those hyper speed or hyperspace rings for like the little Jedi ships.
Yes,
but this is like the size of like, I don't know, like a star, like a battleship or something like this. It's huge. And Morgan did not care. She was like, full speed ahead.
I know.
So I wondered about that. I thought it was going to kill them for a second.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering, like, with the whole speaking of Poe Dameron and going against Holdo, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, well, if Holdo can go through a ship, is it just because that hyperdrive ship deal had a giant hole in it? Is that why they were able to kind of get away from it? Yeah, it seems like maybe that's what it is.
Because it's only the part that is like, I guess, physical matter or whatever that like can hit them or hurt them or whatever.
Right, because it had like the wake turbulence or whatever it was that like kind of hit them as it was. So yeah, I think you're right. That's what I took away from it as well. So yeah.
And I want to talk about Poe Dameron for a second. You're right. I remember speaking to a couple of my friends that love Star Wars and are also in the military were like, that would have never flown. They were like, once he got all those people killed in the beginning of the movie, he would have been on ice. Like he might have been in custody, but if not on custody, they would have definitely like essentially remanded him to his quarters or whatever. And then when he tried the mutiny, they would have like, nah, he would have been done.
Yeah,
they were like, it would have been done. Over for him. Yeah. They were like, so because they kind of, even though it's rebels, they sort of still play it like a military structure. And they were like, that would have never flown.
Yeah, not a chance. Like, not a chance.
They were just like, oh, Poe Dameron, it's just a fiery guy.
What a rascal! Get him out of here.
It's like, he actually did. You guys took down a dreadnought, and that's a huge deal. But you guys lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people. And like no one's really, we didn't even get the scene of them kind of like mourning their deaths a little bit. They were just like, all right, we gotta go.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess, for good reason, because they were being chased, but they definitely let him slide on that.
Yeah.
Like even when Holdo and like Leia were talking about it, they're like, oh, look, Poe Dameron, he's just a little rapscallion.
You know what that reminds me of? You know when you're working at a place and there's like a sales guy and the sales guy just makes it rain all the time, but he's a complete jerk and he like that's what it's like. But here's the thing. If that sales guy makes it rain, but then causes you to lose hundreds of $1,000s in revenue because of a sexual harassment lawsuit, you gotta let the guy go, right? And so that's probably what should have happened with Poe Dameron, because that was the level that he was operating at.
Yeah, it's like you bring him in and you're like, hey, so yeah. You gotta go.
Yeah. About what you said the other day.
It's like, but I bring in money all the time. Yeah, but see, at the Christmas party, you did this.
You had that blue milk, and it was too much for you, dude. And you said some things
you couldn't handle it. You said some stuff, and they got you on tape, and it's not a good look. So I guess the biggest thing is of course, Baylan Skull and Ahsoka. You know, Baylan, the more I see him, the more I'm like, I mean, of course, unfortunately, we lost Ray Stevenson, but dag, he's such an interesting character. Because he's not particularly bad.
No.
He doesn't even really want to fight Ahsoka. Because like when she pulls out the blade, he's just like, how inevitable. Like it's almost like it's like I didn't want to do this,
right?
Kind of thing. And man, I love him as a character.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I really do love his character. I don't really even know. It's because you can't put your finger on him. He's not like some evil, crazy Sith guy. But you don't really know exactly what he wants either. Like we know it's power like we've never dreamed or something like that, but we don't really know what he wants because he doesn't really want Ahsoka dead. And even after the fight with Ahsoka, when Sabine is at his mercy and at Shin's mercy, like he says, "No, I gave her my word. Get off of her." You know, like so he definitely has like this kind of like code of honor or respect, but he's just a very enigmatic character, and I'm so glad we got him in this show.
Yeah, and he even has that like moment of vulnerability where Morgan is like, "Is that fear I sense?" And he's like, "Experience." And so he even has like this dude is amazing. Like he's the kind of villain that we've wanted in Star Wars for a long time. And when you pair him with Shin, because Shin seems like the person who's definitely ready to go dark side, and he's kind of like preventing that from happening because he's like, whoa. We're not like the other Sith. We don't do that kind of stuff. We're not Sith. There's a reason and a purpose for what we're doing, and the others may not agree. But if we got to do what we got to do, we're doing it. And the way that now this is a huge compliment to Filoni and to Ramsey as the director and as the creative force behind this. But seeing the different lightsaber styles in action is so cool. And there's one shot. Yeah. This shot is amazing. This might be my favorite lightsaber battle in the history of Star Wars, by the way. But when he's fighting Ahsoka, there's one moment where he moves forward with a slash with his lightsaber, and then she comes up near his face, and he has to pull back. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, that stunt coordination right there was pretty phenomenal, because they probably have like a dowel or something, right? Like a plastic dowel that's inserted into the end of their their lightsaber. But like she just goes right by his face with that slash from her, and he pulls his head back right in time. And I'm like, wow, this dude he shows up. He's got superior strength because whenever they get into a locked battle, like he can just and he uses the force to pull his strength in. You can kind of tell what's going on there. And then she's using a different lightsaber style where she's able to do a lot more acrobatic stuff. And so he's like a Vader.
Go with the double blades at this time, which was interesting to me.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I don't know why she chose to do that.
More of I guess what you would consider more of a samurai type stance.
Yep.
And I was like, this is interesting because we're so used to seeing her with more of a, I guess, what you would see like traditional ninjas with like kind of like short swords, two of them, wielding two blades. You kind of see that a little bit more, and now with the one blade, it's like, interesting. And even the way she holds the hilt, it's like very interesting. Like it's almost like a long katana or a long sword that she's wielding.
Yes.
So I peeped that, and I was very, very impressed with that whole fight.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love.
Also impressed with when Shin showed up and she assumed that she had killed Sabine. The way she slammed Shin, yo,
that was awesome.
He slammed her hard against that rock, boy. I know this is Disney, but in real life there would have been at least some blood. Like,
yeah. Yeah, there's a concussion right there. Yeah, we all know. We all know it's a concussion. Yeah. Yeah, and it was a cool response, and it was also cool to see Ahsoka use what you would clearly call like not a Jedi move, right? Like A Jedi
Yeah.
wouldn't do that because I mean, maybe if they were angry, but they're not supposed to be. They're not supposed to be doing that move. But for her, it was like, you killed my friend. Like, take this.
Yeah.
That was pretty dope.
It was definitely like a lash out at her.
Yes.
And then because this fight has so much, it has sort of like this remorse. It has these two fighting styles. Baylan Skoll it seems like he's kind of reserving himself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the map, which Ahsoka grabs and it burns her. I didn't think it was going to be hot.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess you do have that like green flame under it, but I just didn't think it was going to be like that hot. And then also I guess the sort of the saddest part in this episode is seeing Sabine show up and then choosing to keep the map. That the moment of keeping the map really kind of it was a letdown for me. I was like, come on.
Yes.
Like, man. Like, you can't keep the map, man. You have to destroy it.
So I'm glad you brought this up because I read an article online. They were talking about how this was a similar decision as Indiana Jones made in Raiders of the Lost Ark when he's standing up on the cliff and he's got the bazooka and Renee Belloc and the Nazis are they're in the valley and they have Marion with them. And Indy's like, I'm going to blow up the Ark, Renee, unless you give me Marion. And somebody compared it to that, and I thought to myself, that's a pretty poor comparison. And it's a poor comparison because Indy in that moment, let's say he does use the bazooka and he blows up the Ark. Marion's dead anyways. Like she's gonna die. Like there's no question. So they were trying to point out like, oh, the only reason Indy chose not to blow up the Ark is because he wanted to see what was inside. And I'm like, actually, he didn't really have that many good options. So like that doesn't make a lot of sense. But the difference is here, Sabine isn't just looking for Ezra and that's the choice she's making. She has other choices. She could actually blow up the map and not allow them to bring Thrawn back. Like she can do that in that moment. So for me, I felt
always try to find Ezra another way.
Exactly. Especially because I think that Ahsoka has already sort of seen the map. Like she was all taking it in when she walked over to fight Baylan. And so for me, I that's the only thing. So I was giving this episode. I really enjoyed this episode. It surprised me. I didn't expect it. I was going to give this episode a 10 out of 10, except I took a 0.25% off. So I'm giving our 0.25 point off because of that choice. Because that choice didn't feel, I totally agree with you, did not feel justified. So I'm giving it a 9.75 because that was just too awkward. There should have been some other pressure on her to do that. And I'm not sure what that would have been. Maybe it was, Ahsoka hadn't died yet or something. But for her to be like, oh yeah, I have such a strong desire to see Ezra that I'll do anything. We have not.
Because if your desire was so strong to see Ezra, why haven't you been trying to find him into this point?
Exactly. Exactly.
Your desire can't be that strong. Also, stop playing it like y'all were just brother and sister. We all watched, since this is supposed to be essentially Rebels season 5 instead of Ahsoka, because after last episode and even some of this episode, I'm like, so are we watching like Sabine, like the show? But anyway, like, it was clear that you guys liked each other romantically. It was made clear that he had a crush on you and that you were coming around to him in like season 2 and 3. Like I don't know what this family stuff, why they're trying to push this family stuff so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe they're figuring that we forgot it, but then at the same time they're banking on the fact that we have nostalgia about the show. So I don't get why they want to push that. I don't get that. But anyway.
Well, to that point, I'm not far enough along in Rebels for them to feel like the family thing is like so strong that I don't know. It doesn't fit for me in what my experience with Rebels is so far.
Yeah.
And I heard a couple people on Twitter complaining that like they wanted more of a romantic connection between Ezra and Sabine. And what's interesting about that is that would actually make more sense than the family thing. If it was like, no, there's actually a romance between them, then that actually, even as a person who hasn't seen all of Rebels, I could be like, oh, I can see that. I mean, it's a little odd, maybe a little odd because of the age difference based on my experience with Rebels, because I haven't seen Ezra fully grow up. But at the same time, Sabine's not in the show is not like totally mature. You know what I mean? Like, so it seems like, oh yeah, that seems like it would fly for me. So making it not romantic, I do agree with you. It doesn't quite work as well.
And even there's some, you know what? I want to talk about Rebels the show for a second. Rebels, for some reason, when it comes to relationships, gets into this weird ambiguous place where they're scared to show people liking one another or something. Because, all right, before Rebels comes, we had the book, I think it was called A New Dawn. There was a book called A New Dawn from Star Wars, and the book was a novel basically leading us into the TV show Rebels.
Nice.
And in that book, it was very clear that Hera and Kanan were a thing. They were an item. They were together. They were feeling each other. Boyfriend and girlfriend, man and woman, whatever you want to call it. They were together, romantically. Then when the show comes out, it's like they never touch one another. There's like one kiss, like way at the end. But then all of a sudden she has a baby by him. It's like, what? Rebels was just very weird about that. And I'm not saying I expect you to have, like adult themes and situations, but just, a casual, like, I love you, or I care about you, or I miss you so much, and I'm like a loving hug or something or like something like that. It was almost as if they forgot what they wrote. And then in Rebels, they have Ezra show up, and he's clearly smitten with Sabine. Sabine's not feeling him because she's kind of more mature and everything, and they don't really say the age, so you don't really know.
Right.
But later on, you see that she starts to also like him as well. So, and when I say later on, I mean like maybe like season 2 or 3. I think it's more season 3 when he's like going to the dark side and then coming back or whatever. But you can see that she has feelings for him too. But the feelings that she has is never like a brother-sister feeling. It's like a boyfriend-girlfriend feeling, because none of them are ever like, we're family. Like, I mean, and I mean, they are kind of like a found family of rebels that are on this ship together, but they're never like, I don't know, they're never like on like they're never like Fast and Furious where it's like, I got friends, I got family. It's like it's never like that. So for them to keep pushing this narrative of them being like brother or sister, or him being like family to her, I'm like, why are y'all trying to push this so much? Like, we didn't know that he liked her, and now trying to reel it back in, or like from the novel where they very clearly liked one another and she had a baby with him. It's like, what? I don't know,
especially
man. It's
because
like Star Wars doesn't know how to have just a average, regular, everyday relationship.
Exactly.
Like, nobody's expecting them to do anything amazing. Just be like, hey, I love you too, or something like that. It's not that hard, hold hands or hug each other. So it's not that hard to like write that.
George Lucas in the first movie was like, I'm gonna have a love triangle, but one of them is gonna be the brother. You're like, what? And then like,
hold up, what?
Yeah, but at least he was like, oh, we're gonna include some romance here and there. But it has been, for whatever reason, Star Wars has struggled to. It's almost like the fans figure out that there could be romance before the actual filmmakers do, because. Remember, like with the whole Reylo situation, whether or not you like Reylo or don't like Reylo, like they're the ones that figured it out, and then the filmmakers were like, "Oh, actually," and I think the filmmakers, of course, we talked about this all the time, like ad nauseum, but like it felt like Rey and Finn were going to be a thing.
Yeah,
I was into that.
Very clear they were.
Yes,
and you even have John Boyega in a couple of interviews talk about how his role was reeled back and all of this stuff.
Yes.
And I'm sure there were at least some racial sensibilities in there, but I don't know why or when, because it's like you casted him. So why not just, if you didn't want that, don't cast him. I don't get it. But
I think here's what it is. Because I'm going from the fact that if you ever look at the Chinese box office film poster for Force Awakens, Finn has like this little tiny picture. So I don't think it was so much a US market problem. I think it was an international market problem where they went, oh, all of our data coming out of these other countries doesn't like this interracial relationship type deal, so we're not going to prioritize that. However, I'm not sure, because if like J.J. Abrams had been the one that had did all three movies and they didn't bring Rian Johnson in the middle, I think J.J. Abrams would have been like, I don't care about that. I'm going to still make this happen. I think it was too awkward.
It's very clear that he likes her and she's actually starting to like him. But now all of a sudden they're in this super platonic relationship. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It's like, it's weird how they played it off the whole time. Like, oh, Rey, I want Rey. Where is she? It's like, you don't care that much about someone unless there's a romantic component, or at least that you think there is, and she's reciprocating. Like, perfect example. All right, so there's two huge moments where they run to each other, one in Force Awakens, one in Last Jedi. I mean, not Last Jedi, one in Last Jedi. And it's like, it's clear when they ran to each other they were supposed to kiss. It's very clear.
Yeah.
Any other movie besides, I don't know, this sanitized version of Star Wars, they would have ran to each other and kissed one another and just like held for a moment, like, I'm so glad you're alive. But in this one, they just run together and hug. It's like, huh? Like in The Force Awakens, when she's like, you came back for me, that's clearly a kissable moment.
Oh yeah.
Like, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah,
I mean, do I have to write this stuff for y'all? Come on.
Well, and the whole point of them withholding that, it feels like it's going to come back in a later film. So I get if you say in The Force Awakens you go, okay, we're not gonna do it here because we're gonna build up that tension between them, just like Han and Leia, where Han is flirting with Leia the whole time in A New Hope, and she's the whole time she's like, yeah, whatever, get out of here, and you only know that they're gonna get tighter with one another. And so if you fast forward to these TV shows, it feels like the same thing. It feels like there are characters who could fall into a romantic relationship, and if there isn't at least some tension between them, it comes off as not realistic, right? Like, if you put enough people out there in situations, romantic relationships are going to fall into place. But we've seen like Mandalorian with Cara Dune, no romance. Mandalorian with Bo-Katan, no romance. Hell, put Mandalorian with sheriff dude. like any kind of romance. It doesn't matter if it's
because Cara Dune, I could see where they like, okay, we want to keep them sort of as friends. We don't want to dive in. We want to hold it for Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
But when Bo-Katan comes, that moment when he's like, kind of like, I'm staying here with you, I'm never leaving, kind of like, I'm, loyal or whatever. After that whole scene, it's very clear, like, it's romance time.
Right.
And then like at the end of the movie, at the end of the show or season, when he's getting ready to leave, her grabbing his hand real quick and just looking at him and saying, stay, boom, that solves it all.
Yes.
That solves it all.
Yes. Yeah, well, they also had the
even
romance.
If he leaves her, just looking back and saying like, I'll never leave or something like that, or I'm always here. Like, something
yes.
And then we're like, okay, at least we know. At least we're not sitting here feeling like we're stupid or like you're stupid, because like, like even the Reylo thing was ham-fisted because they fumbled the bag on Finn and Rey.
Correct.
So they were like,
Correct.
okay, we have one movie left. I guess we'll just make this happen.
Right. Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
it's very clear that this is supposed to be Finn and Ray. What are y'all doing? And then you have one movie for him to then turn and be good, and then the Knights of Ren were whack, and then just,
Even if you go back to Mando, even that one lady who lived on the planet where they were like the locals were sort of just they were dealing with the AT-AT or sorry, the ATST that was like terrorizing them, and they
yeah,
had like I don't know, they were like just the local native people or whatever.
yeah, they were like
That
a
even that
farming
lady
village or
seemed
something
like
like
she
that.
could have a romantic connect. Yeah, exactly. Even there was a lady there that there could have been a romantic connection to, and it feels like Disney is like removing romance, which is bizarre because George Lucas has romance in like maybe with the exception of THX 117 what is it 1177 I don't remember.
Whatever that
Oh no,
movie is.
1138, right? THX 1138. With the maybe with the exception of that film because I haven't seen that film in a long time if ever. But like American Graffiti has romance, the George Lucas Star Wars, all of them have romance.
Yeah,
Um all of the Indiana Jones films have romance. Like George Lucas was a guy who put a lot of romance, and then you always get the John Williams themes associated with those.
yeah,
And
and the romance made sense too. It's like, okay, this
correct,
makes sense.
yes, exactly. It's if two people are spending a lot of time together, and there is a romantic spark there, like that makes sense, especially when they go through tough times together. There's a mutual respect and admiration, which can turn
Hmm.
into love. But yeah, when you get to these other Disney shows, you just really don't see much of that. Like Andor has like it's like off to the side, like it's not front and center. It's like, oh yeah, these two are in a relationship, and you're like, oh okay, I
And
guess
it's
that's
like,
cool.
oh man, they could really be together. They could be great. Oh yeah, well let's just break the woman's mind and have her go crazy. And then it's like, what? It doesn't
Yeah,
make
yeah,
any sense.
totally,
He
totally.
comes back for his woman, or when he comes back to his woman, she's like ready to like fight side by side with him, and
And
like
of all the
y'all,
people to
like
do
how
it,
y'all
Filoni
fumble
would be
this stuff
great.
so hard, man.
Yeah, Filoni could totally pull this off. Like, I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't. Because he has all, like you said, they have it in the book, they have it in the series, but it's never
Yeah,
on screen. It's always somewhere in the background. It's always
it's like
like
they're
a
scared to
distant
show
thing.
like
Yeah.
two people actually like I don't know, just regularly caring for one another.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Like no
weird.
one's asking for like an adult film.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, these two people like each other. Maybe they'll hug every now and then. Maybe they'll hold
Exactly.
hands. Maybe they'll look
Exactly.
longingly into each other's eyes. Like just, regular stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. That's weird,
Ah,
man.
man.
It's weird.
But
I don't get it.
but I will digress from that point. I think I think this episode shines in a way where this series was needed.
Yes.
I mean, where this series needed it, because this show for me was drowning.
Yes.
The first two episodes as kind of like the lead off were okay. They
Yes.
gave me something to like look like, okay, let's see what else you got. But then that third episode was just extremely weak for me.
Yes. Agree.
And now we have but like I said, we needed to bring the villains back in.
Yep.
And I mean, we already talked about it in the last episode. If you would have had, even if Morgan like had, I don't know, like hailed her, and I know that's Star Trek, but you know what I mean, just
Yeah.
called her over the phone when she was coming up to, in episode 3, when she was coming up to the hyperdrive or whatever, like, oh, Ahsoka, you still trying to catch me? Like something where the villains get to do something with
Yes.
the antagonist. Like, let the heroes and villains actually interact. Have her gloat a little bit, or have her do something. You know, send like maybe like, oh, you shut down my factory, but you're a little too late. And it's like, what do you mean you're a little too late? Oh, well, we also did this.
Yeah.
Like something where they actually interact. They make each other upset. They do, because episode 3 was, that was rough.
Yeah. It was rough. It was really rough.
But this one, is promising. We've got what, 4 left, 3 left.
Four left. 4 left. 5, 6, 7, 8.
So we got 4 episodes left. If they can be this good or better, then I'm willing to be like, you know what, this show came through.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that things pick up, because at the end of this episode, we finally see Mr. Skywalker. That's right, Mr. Skywalker. You know him, you love him, Anakin. Like, and we also see the MacGuffin of the world between worlds. I'm thinking we gonna see Ahsoka washed up on a rock or something like that. Man,
yeah.
Thank God for the world between worlds, boy. It comes through when you need it. Because
it is weird. It is weird too.
It seems like it was there just because they needed it to be, not because we didn't get any indication that she had been there before. Not that she had been there before, but that she was, able to go there or anything like that. We didn't even see the owl bird or whatever that's around when she usually, at least show us something to be like, oh, okay. It's just like, oh, well, that's where she's gonna be. Why? Oh, because we don't want her to die.
Yeah.
But
it's
we
interesting
did see. We got to see Hayden, so or I guess fake Hayden.
yeah. De-aged Hayden. I mean, here's the thing that's a little odd about it too is I don't know anything about the world between worlds because what is that in? Is that in Rebels?
Yeah, that's in Rebels in, I believe, the final season.
Okay, because I think I'm almost done with season 2. Maybe I've worked my way into season 3 a little bit. And I don't know anything about it. So, but what I find interesting is he said, you're here sooner than I thought you would be. And yet he looks like young Anakin. And I'm like, wait a minute. This dude grew old. And then Anakin was replaced. Obviously the first actor who played Force Ghost Anakin was removed and they put in Hayden Christensen later on. But why does Ben Kenobi look old after he died when he was old, but Anakin looks young after he died when he was old? Anakin got the benefit.
Is that, I don't know. The only thing I can guess is that they wanted to show, or the Force Ghost is showing when, I don't know, when Anakin was still good, but like you said, we saw the Force Ghost as the old man already.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can guess is because they're like, hey, that actor is gone, so we want to use the actor that's alive. Maybe, I don't know. We can sell more Anakin figures if we use the guy that's alive. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think. But this is all right. I think the world between worlds is a cool concept. But I also think that if you keep using this thing, you're going to make people ask questions that you guys cannot answer. Because I've already seen Filoni talk about the world between worlds before, and it didn't sound too great.
Right.
He was like, it's not time travel. It's more, it's like, yeah, y'all about to get, look, once you start messing with time travel, or once you start messing with dimensions and stuff, it's about to get convoluted. All right. It's about to get real weird. And I don't think you guys want to go there.
Yeah.
Especially with Star Wars. Y'all already don't really know how to handle your canon. So, because now the question is, are we looking at a Force Ghost or are we looking at regular Anakin?
Right.
Because if we're looking at regular Anakin, then the question is going to be, why in the world are we seeing regular Anakin when we have no indication that he has ever been in the world between worlds?
Right.
Not from the comics, not from anything. So I'm hoping that this is a Force Ghost that's there to kind of give some knowledge when need be. Kind of like Yoda comes through, Last Jedi, when Yoda comes and he's like, hey, stupid, train the girl. Right. I mean, it's basically like, it was like, yo, what are you doing? like you sitting here complaining about the Jedi, and yeah, some Jedi did good, some Jedi didn't. As a whole, we completely missed the thing, and we messed up. But this is a brand new person that
Yeah.
needs your guidance. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And which is basically what we as fans were saying. Like, it would be nice to. I'm not going to go on the grumpy old man thing again. Like, and I don't know what it is. It's like, hey, what I think is great. Let's just take a character and let's just throw everything out the window. And I'm like, I don't mind throwing everything out the window if you have a plan, but you didn't. So let me insert something where you had no idea anyway. In Force Awakens, Luke should have showed up then.
Yeah.
When Kylo said that lightsaber is mine, and he yelled it out, "That's mine." When they're both reaching for it, when him and I guess Finn or whatever are reaching for it, or him and Rey are reaching for it, and it flies, or when Kylo's reaching for it and it flies past him. If Luke caught it and said, "No, this is mine," the whole theater would have went crazy.
Yeah.
The whole theater. That's what I'm talking about. That's how. Like, bruh, like, why do I have to write this for? I mean, like, come on. I like, y'all are making the money. Like, y'all are making the money, and I want everybody to remember that they bought this property, or they bought Lucasfilm as a whole, but mostly focus on Star Wars for $4 billion. You can't count to 1 billion probably in your life. Like, if you were born, and the second you were born, you were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you still can't count to 1 billion. Okay, they spent $4 billion, and they had no idea what they wanted to do with these movies.
Yeah,
no idea. That's a problem.
That is wild. That is really wild.
If you put that in any other context, at any other job, they'd be like, "What are you? No, you're fired." They'd be like, "Hey guys, like, say you work at I don't know, say you work at Kroger. You're the CEO of Kroger, right? And they're like, hey, or I guess if you're on the West Coast, you might not know Kroger, but Kroger is basically, just so you know, Kroger is basically like Albertsons or Pavilions or something like that.
Ralph's or something, yeah.
Ralph's. Well, actually, Kroger owns Ralph's.
Oh,
so
there you go.
So so you're like, all right, hey guys, I want to spend $4 billion, and they're like, for what? Well, I don't know yet, but I think if we spend $4 billion, we can make a lot of money. It's like, well, what are you buying? Oh, I'm buying this store. Okay, well, what's your idea? What's the store going to do? Well, I don't know. I mean, we'll figure it out. Like, bruh, $4 billion. They would not let you spend that.
You know what else is weird about it?
Spend that.
You know what else is weird about it? Is it like they seem to actively, like, I get. Look, I'm a writer. I don't like fan service if it's overdone. But you can print money right now, because there is a whole bunch of people who loved the Knights of the Old Republic video games. A bunch of people bought that video game. It's a well-performing video games having been sold, right? And we've seen now game adaptations that have done incredibly well. The Last of Us being one of the most recent ones. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how you don't look at all of the novels, all of the comics, all of the video games and go, we're going to make an X-Wing video game film. We're going to make a Knights of the Old Republic film. We're going to make a Republic Commando film. Like, you basically are printing money with that. People already love that stuff. Like, why would you not do it? Like, it seems like they're actively avoiding some of the things that have made the company millions of dollars that could turn into billions of dollars, and they're like, nah, we're gonna do something else instead. It's like, it's so weird to me. I don't understand.
Yeah, because the X-Wing Patty Jenkins film, that's where's that at? Don't hold your breath.
You're not holding.
And like, there's no way that we don't have a Knights of the Old Republic movie or Knights of the Old Republic series.
Yep.
Now they have done well with the Bad Batch show, but why isn't there like a I don't know, Rogue Squadron, movie or show or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that was supposed to be Patty Jenkins' thing, but who knows? But you know what? We've given Star Wars their praise today, so I'm gonna throw it over to you, Mr. J. Final thoughts. Where can they find you?
Final thoughts. I love this episode. Like I said, it was almost a 10 out of 10 for me, with the exception of Sabine's decision making. But like lightsaber battles, phenomenal. The incorporation of Sabine as an actual Mandalorian fighter, phenomenal. I loved the use of the technology of filmmaking in this episode. So there was no time where I felt the volume was poorly used. I thought the volume felt really like when they're in the forest, it feels like they're in the forest. When they're out on the rocks, it feels like they're on a cliff. They don't always get that right, but they got it right for this episode for sure. Phenomenal. Also, I love the production design. So when the hyperdrive that's going to take them to the other galaxy, that thing is gorgeous. And then the controls that the droid is at, where he's trying to do the navigation computer, that stuff is awesome. It's a mix of like the Jedi Order era, the prequel era, and a little bit of the sensibilities of the original trilogy era. And I just thought that they did a great job across the board there. I thought the performances were great. I thought that Ahsoka, a couple of things I noticed. One, the sound design for when Ahsoka turns on her blade versus when Baylan turns on his blade, phenomenal sound design between the differences between the two. I also love the fact that Rosario Dawson, because one of the things that we talked about with Solar last week, is that Ahsoka feels like she has a slightly different personality. She seems more mature and stoic than she did when she was younger. But I noticed that when she was fighting Baylan, she was using a lot of grimaces and like showing her teeth a lot. And I thought, that's like straight up from the cartoon. Like she does that same face. So good on Rosario Dawson for like carrying through some of the elements of that character, even though she's changed in her arc wise. She's still maintaining some of the core of what that character would do. So yeah, I was really impressed. I was sitting there watching the first time I watched with my wife. I kind of expected to be disappointed, if I'm being honest, because I did not like episode 3 at all.
Yeah.
But I even got I asked last week when we talked with Solar, I said, I want to see Sabine stand up and fight as a Mandalorian. We got that. I said, I want to get a little bit more information about what is going on with the bad guys and why they're doing what they're doing. We haven't fully gotten that, but we did get a little bit more built out of what the philosophical approach that Baylan is taking to bringing Thrawn back and why he's doing it. We don't know he didn't tell us like, I'm doing it because, which would have been maybe a little bit cheesy, but they gave us some more insights into his character and being like, no, I'm a man of my word. Like, I'm not going to let you do that. Like, he's in his mind, he's building towards something good, not towards something evil. And that's interesting. And we know that now through this episode. So a lot of the things that I was asking for, I got, which I thought was really good. And I had a lot of fun with this episode. So I'm hoping that now Disney doesn't have a great track record with keeping the episodes on the same level of greatness. So we'll see where this goes. But I'm really hoping that it will get, better and better throughout the end of this season. You can find me, How Stories Work with Jay Sherer. I'm in the process of I'm turning a table read that we did into a little film, a short film. And then I'm going to be actually filming the actual film of that later on this year. So if you want to go check out How Stories Work with Jay Sherer, you can check out some of that stuff over on that channel. And then on the Orange Grove 55 channel, I put the Story Geeks podcast over there. I'm sure we're going to get Mike on one of those upcoming shows if he can make it. Talk more Ahsoka over there.
Yeah.
But that is usually happening over the weekend. We usually record those Friday or Saturday, so you'll see those come out like Saturday, Sunday, generally speaking. So keep your eyes out. We're doing an Ahsoka series over there. And that's pretty much all there is. You can find me on Twitter too, @JSheer. I'm over there just saying nonsensical stuff all the time. So
It's not
any one of those
nonsense.
places.
It's some good stuff he's saying.
I try.
It's definitely
just
not nonsense.
it's fun anyways. But yeah, thanks for having me on. This is I always look forward to talking to you about Star Wars. So this has been
man,
super fun.
Star Wars is awesome. I mean, even though we have our critiques, but I mean, Star Wars is awesome. But I'll say for me, final thoughts is I am really intrigued by Baylan Skoll. I'm just his code, and I love people that you can't really put your finger on, because the way he's acting now, it makes me wonder if he's even gonna fully go through with the whole Thrawn thing. Like, I don't know where to put him, but that's good as a character, you know what I'm saying? Like, as far as the way he acts, how he is, he didn't even really want to fight. He was sad to see, the Jedis, die and stuff like that. So that's cool. And then Morgan, I like that Morgan is sort of setting herself up, most likely, to take a fall. Because she's way too, like, even the way she talks to Baylan and stuff, like she's feeling herself too much. So, so I think I think she's probably going to fall very hard when Thrawn comes back, because I don't, maybe not, but I feel like Thrawn might not be too, like, excited to see her. I mean, he might be like, "Hey, thanks for bringing me back," but that's it.
Right.
Like,
right.
She might be expecting something from Thrawn that she won't get. I am worried for Sabine, because I'm wondering if Sabine may have signed her ticket on this one. Ooh. Because her wanting to see Ezra, or the possibility to see him so bad, might actually get her killed, or disfigure. She might lose her arm. This is Star Wars, so she might lose her arm or something like that.
But, or lead to the dark side. Like, she could actually, this would be really interesting actually. She could finally figure out how to use the Force by being angry, and then be like, "Oh, this is how I use the Force." And she could go full
and it
dark
could become
side.
kind of like a drug tour.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I'd definitely be into that. And then seeing how that plays whenever Ahsoka comes back or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm all in now. I'm much more excited than I was. I hope they keep it here. When it comes to Star Wars, they definitely need to keep Rick Famuyiwa.
Catch you guys later.
And, and Peter Ramsey and Deborah Chow, and like full rotation like that. Like, that's it. Oh, and Bryce Dallas Howard has had some good episodes too. So I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with them over there, man. They're just just losing it all. But anyway, with that said, NERDSoul, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, podcast, all that jazz. Until the next time, where you have to decide whether it's a map or your master, or until the next time you have to decide whether or not to get out of the way of a hyperdrive system that's coming straight at you, or until the next time that you have to defend yourself against an HK droid. This is from us to you saying, peace.
Bye.